No.
There's only two of them.
Literally, one just stopped looking at us. He refuses to look at us anymore. Paul, I'm sorry.
Okay, so we have Paul and
Jacob and Joe.
hi.
Hi.
Hey, guys.
Hey, guys.
They're a
Greetings.
creative force behind something. What did they create?
Curses comic.
Curses Comics.
Yeah, you guys have been on before though.
Yes.
Yes. Thanks
Most
for
of
having
us.
back.
Yeah.
Two
Two of the
thirds of
three.
them.
Yeah, so we have a mystery guest, and then like ho hum. We've done this before, guest.
I'll see if I can carry these two.
So all our attention, you guys too, Jacob and Joe, all our attention goes to Paul. Paul,
Yeah.
Mhm.
this is your life, okay?
Dead air.
Yeah. So Paul, where were you born?
I was born in Visalia, California.
Oh wow, okay.
Do you still live there, or have you moved since moved?
I have moved many a time. I currently live in Oakland.
Eric, you're taking this
So-
bit a little far. I was joking, but thanks for answering, Paul.
wasn't.
That's-
I take.
Yeah, I'm
I
just waiting
take.
for the Social Security question.
Do you have a credit card that can see your front and back of? Does everybody you are you?
Do you have the Slice app? Does anybody use the Slice app?
I have no idea what that is. so
That's
too
I
the
have no
that's the
idea what that
pizza delivery one, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you use that?
Yes, only on occasion, because usually like you can get the same thing in Postmates, but Slice goes further. It doesn't matter. We're not plugging in it. Yes, I've used it before.
Oh, it delivers further than Postmates?
For whatever reason, when you look up a place, there's like a smaller radius, and Slice would be like, "Oh man, you really want pizza? We'll give it to you, no matter what city it's coming from,
Oh,
even if
cool.
it shows up cold." Yeah,
Oh, I didn't know
Okay.
that. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I just know that you can get like a free pizza every 5 pizzas or something like that. It's very
I didn't know that.
it's very nice. My wife loves it. So like
All right.
yeah, we
Fair
use
enough.
Slice all the time. And then we pick up. We don't get it delivered. We just pick up.
Sounds good. Yeah,
I don't know why they need their own app, the pizza places.
haven't figured it out either. Yeah.
What's better than the stamp cards? I have a collection of them from like a dozen different sushi places and a cheesesteak shop that I've never cashed in, but I think I've got somewhere in the neighborhoods that like 10 or 20 sandwiches ready to go. You just got to bring them all in at once.
Yeah. I swear, you got like 3 on one, 2 on another one, that sort of thing. Just hope it adds up. Yeah.
You're waiting
I
for
see.
the stock market crash, really.
To cash in on cheesesteaks.
So, Jacob and Joe, you guys are the creators of Curses Comics, artist and writer. We've talked to you quite a bit about your process. Paul is the editor of your comic book. How does Paul factor in to your, what does
So
he do?
during
What
the-
is Paul? What is
During the
Paul's
writing
role?
process.
What is the job of the editor? So
Yeah.
to
That's a
speak?
good question, Paul. What is your job?
In this context, I'm sort of like Clippy, if you remember Clippy from Microsoft Word.
Yeah, the little.
I'm the guy that pops up in the corner
Yeah.
and it's like, hey,
Oh
you kind of spelled
God.
that wrong.
Oh God.
Yeah, that's
we
an
just
excellent
dated.
analogy.
We just dated
Yeah.
ourselves, guys. Like.
Mostly I'm a sounding board. I got a call from Joe one day and asked if I could do some light editing work for him, and I took that to mean copy editing. Not so different from our college days, where Joe would have a paper or some other thing that he wanted another pair of eyes for,
Yeah.
and we were roommates, and I would take care of it. And I usually only charged like a steak dinner or a clean $20,
Right.
or some other small piecemeal thing. And here we are today, 20 years later. I'm still doing his homework.
Yeah.
And
As a college student, a steak dinner is like way
that's a
like
lot.
upper
oh
class.
yeah,
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
did you drink every single time you did that, like with your pinky out? I mean, at that point?
No, I believe, Paul, you might be slightly misremembering this. Every now and then, I usually write my essays and be like, hey, I need help with this. Every now and then I was like, Paul, how do you feel about doing this essay
yes,
for me?
yeah. I
And
didn't
that-
want to
and-
sell you out.
And that was the value of a steak dinner, by the way.
Oh, okay. Okay.
I believe I wrote the cover letter.
Well,
where
yeah,
you were-
we're going to go ahead and comment up on which ones we're writing.
Got it.
At some point, some of his work was some of my work. It all blends together. Who's to say, But
But as far as the
Uh,
comic goes, I try and stay out of Joe's way and just let him sound other ideas off of me. And I seem to get brought in when there is a contentious moment between the two. And I'm the
Yes,
tiebreaker.
he has played referee a couple times where Jacob is like, I will die before we add a rubber ducky to this seed. And I
Yeah.
was like, damn it, my life depends on this rubber ducky. And Paul will just get a frantic phone call like, Paul, I think Jacob's an idiot. He hates rubber duckies. I think rubber duckies are the best thing ever. What do you think about this seed? And he's like, I don't know what the context is. You're gonna have to send me the script. Like, what are we talking about here? But he's played tiebreaker a handful of times on dumb idea, like stupid concepts, or does this joke land, or does this even make sense? It's been great to have a third person invested
Absolutely.
in the
especially in our early days of like growing pains and trying to figure out this whole process.
Have you ever had to like grease the wheels? Like, hey, Paul, I was there for you in college, and I just need you to side on me on this one little thing about
does
a
Paul
rubber
always
duck.
seem to take Joe's sides, Jacob?
No.
Or is it the opposite? Like, has Paul? You're like, Paul's never taken my side once. Actually,
Right. I don't know. I don't think we have a tally going. I think the reason that's the case is because Paul never says yes or no to one. He's like, well, what if we did half a rubber ducky with that? Like just a head sort of like some sort of like a blending of the two ideas kind of thing.
It's like a lose-lose or a compromise is
Right. Is where we always usually end up.
okay.
Yeah, it's good that he stays objective. That way we can make sure the audience is going to receive our dumb ideas. So
I usually do just wander around with like the dunce cap on, asking myself, would a reasonable person laugh at this? Would an unreasonable person laugh at this?
Interesting.
Yeah, and that was something that came up regularly at the con too, where I had to pitch this to a lot of people of all shapes and sizes, and it sometimes landed and sometimes it didn't.
What was the name of the con you went to?
We went to the Los Angeles Comic Convention. It was in Los Angeles. Actually, not only was it in Los Angeles, it was the entire LA Convention Center, which if you've never been before, is essentially two full convention centers that are tied together with like a sky tunnel connecting them two together. So this one went all out. It was going to be the first big one in a long time, because even San Diego Comic-Con did a very sort of like mock drop down version of it this year. Yeah. So since the pandemic, this was the first major con. Everybody who was there was like, they decided to go out, like I said, first time in almost 2 years that they got to do a big convention sort of thing that wasn't just virtual or something like that. So it was massive and endless. We were there for 3 full days, and I left Jacob on multiple occasions to go explore. And by the end of the 3rd day, I almost finished just the side that we were on, the building that we were on. I didn't even get to see the second building.
Oh my gosh!
So yeah, it went.
Yeah, I didn't even get to see the full building we were in. It was huge. It was massive.
Yeah.
Did you have a table?
We did. Not only did we have a table, we had a corner table. It was awesome real estate.
Wow, cool.
Yeah, really kind of fun.
Was it just the two of you, or was Paul there?
Just the 2 of us.
Okay.
Oh, sorry, Paul.
Editing like what you guys say.
I didn't mean to laugh. I'm sorry.
It was a grind, by the way. There was a grind element to it. Like it was, 12-hour days, I think, at some point.
Wow.
It was a whole thing.
So how many did you print? So you printed your comic before going to the con?
Yes. Yeah, we made a couple small print orders, modest, just in case we didn't sell out. And, in this case, I'm glad we didn't print too many, just because a lot of people weren't really buying. And that was just kind of a general theme throughout the whole convention.
Oh, okay.
But, we did okay. It was just...
So what I want to give a caveat to is Jacob has been hitting the pavement on conventions, probably actually since the last time we did a podcast. Mm-hmm. So almost as a part-time job, just everything in the area, sometimes it, stayed over or something like that. So he had a lot of experience just from, being at cons, seeing what worked and seeing what didn't. I showed up with myself and my pockets and a pen and pencil and a piece of paper, and that was it. Jacob showed up with trunks of stuff, and he had signs already pre-printed and banners and stuff like that and everything. So it was more like I was there helping, assisting, piggybacking of all the stuff he'd been developing up until then.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome.
Yes.
So you've been to how many, Jacob?
I only did probably 4 last year.
That's a lot, though. Yeah.
It was, and some of them were better than others. I would say earlier on in the year, they were really good, and then they kind of tapered off. And you know what? The bigger ones, the bigger conventions didn't do as well compared to the smaller conventions. And I'm not exactly sure why that is. We have some theories, but who knows?
Well, what do you
Lots
think?
of attendees, but not a lot of purchases for whatever
Yeah.
reason. Yeah.
Do you think people are just kind of overlooking the actual tables to get to the,
Could be that,
Mark Hamill
like,
or someone?
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, like Rob Liefeld was there, and there was like a line of people, dressed up as Deadpool, and they were like all waiting to see him. And then there's like, big merchandise places, and like Disney has a booth, and people are
Yeah.
probably going to go see that stuff. So yeah, I don't think us in the Artist Alley were getting the majority of the attendees to come by and buy our stuff. So
Yeah, I can tell you for a fact. First of all, I talked to a couple people around us who were like lived at cons. That was their thing. That they just went from con to con, city to city, and the consensus was, yeah, everybody was super nice. It was great to be back in a big con, but generally, as far as emptying your pockets, not a huge showing that day. I noticed at least a handful of times that people were just overwhelmed. There's so much happening, right?
Yeah.
And you need something to grab your attention. And I happen to adore Jacob's art, and I've said it in the past. And just about almost everybody that not just walked by but stopped at our booth said, "Man, I saw the banner, I caught my eye. The art. Tell me about your comic. That sort of thing."
Oh, cool.
So it really was just a like a needle in a haystack sort of thing, where it's just like. There's so much color in every direction, anything you can think of, giant banners and stuff like that. By the way, sometimes very misleading banners. I remember a handful of times we would see something sitting down and we're like, that looks awesome. And Jacob would like, go check it out and tell me what that IP is. And I would come back and I was like, it was so dumb. It was so dumb, man.
That's crazy,
Yeah.
like how marketing works though, right? Like that's the type of stuff. Oh my God.
One in particular, there was one that was I shot from us, and we were like, "Oh man, that one looks cool. It looked like some D&D."
If I remember, hold on, it was called Lizards and Labyrinths.
Okay.
It was in the font of D&D, but it had like a brick, old school like brick background to it and stuff like that. I'm like, God, did they develop a new it's a new RPG system, or is it maybe an interesting spin on D&D, but the story is everyone's a lizard, I was so excited about it. But that's the one you're talking about, right? The same one?
It is the one, yeah.
Yeah. I think we stared at that thing for a day or so, a full day before I went to go check it out.
Yeah.
First of all, two things happened. One, the banner is two-sided, right? And I didn't know that. We were just looking at the side facing us.
Okay.
So I immediately went to the booth that it was underneath.
Mhm.
And I was like, guys, Lizards and Labyrinth, it's so cool. Tell me about it. And it was this husband and wife, and they kind of looked at each other and they're like, we don't know what you're talking about. I was like, the sign. And they're like, oh, that's the booth behind us. That's not our booth. They just had this massive booth and it was sitting above their heads. And I was like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. They're like, that's cool. Do you want to talk about our thing? And I was like, no. They were selling like, chibi buttons or something like that. And I was like, I really just,
the high pitch, like,
I was like, maybe, but I kind of want to find out what Lizards and Labyrinths are first. I'm so sorry. I'll be back. I promise. And I just ran away.
Never came back.
So,
Yeah.
Never came back. So then I went all the way down one aisle, back across, come all the way down the other aisle, and it was but there's like 4 or 5 people at the thing. I'm like, Lizards and Labyrinths, what is it? and so basically it was something like, well, we have this comic book where these people get sucked into a video game. And inside the video game, there's a music group, and the album that they drop as part of the video game is called Lizards and Labyrinths. And we're thinking of making a song or two for it or something like that. And I was like,
So it's an album? Is it a music album?
Okay. In their story, the characters are inside of a fake video game. In the fake video game is a fake artist who has a fake album that doesn't exist, and that album is called Lizards and Labyrinths.
So it's Inception. It's Inception.
It's Inception. Again, keep in mind, aside from the name and the logo of the name, nothing more exists of this concept.
There's no lizards.
There's no lizards. There's no labyrinths.
Or like they even have the comic ran for it yet. They're like,
okay,
I got one in our mind.
I got one better for you. You know what he was pitching instead? And I totally forgot about this. he sold me hard on, was that the guy for the creative space? Wasn't that the one, Jacob? Where he was like, by the
Yes.
way, if you guys have a comic that's so awesome, please take our card. What we do is you pay us and we will feature your comic on our website. And also, if you'd like, you can use our creative space to make more comics if you're interested. And that's really what he's pushing, this sort of pyramid scheme of comic. Again, you got to understand. So Jacob is sitting at the table like, I can't wait. He's been gone a long time. I'm excited for him to tell me what Lizards and Labyrinths is. And I was just so defeated.
You're
Yeah.
getting sold on a pyramid scheme.
I love
Yeah,
how this.
Yeah.
I love this,
Well,
like,
how did the
episodes
scheme
become,
work?
Like,
Oh,
I love this episode's just become like just us punching on lizards and ladders, like of all the things. Like
It's
you know,
not a
like,
real thing.
It's not, it sounds like of all the places to do a pyramid scheme, like why would you do it at a convention?
I don't know. But now I feel like they are improperly using Lizards and Labyrinths. I'm like, I'll write a comic called Lizards and Labyrinths, and I'll better than what
Yeah.
they did with it.
I'll tell
And
you,
it was
there
like
is an
such like a little-
album called Lizards and Labyrinths.
Oh,
by-
it exists.
by
They
the
made it.
Lizards of Doom,
Okay.
and it seems
Okay.
that it came out a while ago, 2018. But I don't see that this is connected to.
No. This might actually be the right thing. I'm looking at the artwork
This
and
is
it looks.
them. Okay.
This is them. So this album exists in the fake video game that the characters of their stories get sucked into, or something like that.
Okay. All right.
So I guess I didn't realize that he actually did make the album. It was just I was getting a lot of nonsense from this guy, but yeah, not to punch down.
It's
into-
very conceptual. I'll say that.
yeah, but they're songs and they exist. All right, far be it from me to say
So,
that they
so
didn't at
this
least do something
album
with it.
was made by a character within his comic book that was already trapped in a video game. Did you say fake video game or?
Yes, yeah. The game only exists in the story. Again, this is the pitch I was given. So if I get a little bit of it wrong, I apologize. But yeah, it was a weird like spiral down to get to what actually was.
It's like
They're co-
like Jumanji, like
Yeah.
the new movie, version,
yeah.
right? Like
Yes, yeah. I think that's
But
because I
but
was
once you
like,
get sucked in, you have to join a band.
I was like, I don't care about. I just want to know
Struggle.
about Lizards and Labyrinths, and the amount of degrees it took to get for him to just tell me what Lizards and Labyrinths was so disappointing.
The labyrinth is the music industry.
Yeah.
And it's navigating producers and
Yeah.
record companies and digital sales, and that's the labyrinth.
Yeah,
And your band is called Lizards of Doom. Yeah,
I guess so. But yeah,
that's
so
really
yeah,
boring sounding.
but yes, but not only that, but so you see the way the font of the album
Yeah,
cover,
it
it
looks-
was just that, but with a massive banner. Keep in mind, double-sided, so big that we could see it 4 aisles over, and stealing the thunder of the poor table behind them.
Wow.
But yeah, we just looked at that for about a full day and a half, and we're like, I gotta see what that is, man. It was just a really well done design.
Yeah,
Marketing.
it is a good design.
Long story short, marketing. It helps sometimes.
Yeah.
So, what kind of banners did you guys have?
Well, I've got a couple like 6-foot banners that we ordered from, or one that we ordered. You know what? Actually, we ordered both of them from Vistaprint. They
Okay,
did like the
yeah.
retractable one, like
Oh,
the
cool,
vertical
cool,
one,
cool.
and then we did one that was a banner, and I bought some stand off of Amazon and just strung it up with zip ties, and it seems to work pretty well. It doesn't take too long to set up. Joe was able to help me set it up really fast, and the only thing that it's kind of awkward, and we noticed that, is like the vertical one next to the horizontal banner. It's like, how do you fit this behind a 8-foot table space without it like covering
Yeah,
the horizontal one? So
you can't put it in front in any way. Or...
I think
could.
that's what we were thinking of doing next time, to have it dangling on the front and then put the 2 big ones behind us. Or something
yeah, we're gonna
okay.
have to. And hopefully, I've been to some other smaller conventions where you have like a lot of real estate. You can really put your banners out there, but at this big convention, everybody's crammed in there, and
Paul, what do you
you
think?
only have what we have to work with. So
Let's
You're
bring you back
the
a little
editor.
traumatic-
Yeah,
It is
yeah.
bringing back a lot of traumatic memories. I've spent a good deal of time at conventions. I work in the gaming industry in
Oh, okay.
marketing. So it's my job to make those signs that deceive everybody and draw them to your booth.
Ooh.
And I do not miss the days of doing setup and teardown for the booth. But it sounds like you guys had a really successful run for being a small indie comic in
Totally.
dwarfed in a sea of other small indie comics and
Yeah.
larger ones.
In a con where everybody claimed there were poor sales, I think we sold almost 50 comics, 40 comics, Jacob? Was that what it was?
Yeah, I think so. I think that sounds about
Nice.
right.
50
Definitely my
individual
bags were a
people.
lot lighter going home.
Yeah, 50 individual people bought our comic in some way, shape, or form.
Oh,
which
that's
is kinda
great.
nice.
That's
Yeah,
wonderful.
yeah.
That's really, really good.
Shaking hands and kissing babies, the whole
Was
thing.
any-
Did you make any contacts?
Yeah, we did. We made one who I need to probably follow up with. But yeah, the most, what I wanted to say was, I think the reason I got into this topic at all was because I was talking about pitching this idea to so many different people. We would get people at our booth all the time, again, drawn by the art, shown up, hey, tell us about the concept. And I, hit them with something simple, it's, Clerks meets sort of Buffy the Vampire Slayer, whatever, like some concept like that. And people are like, I love it. Shut up. Don't stop talking to me. I just want this comic. Get off your shelf. We met some people that were like, whoa, Curses. I saw, I bought your first issue at a comic book store because I have one of the local ones sells it. Didn't know you had second and third. I'd love to pick it up. I'm like, cool. Did you read the first issue? Nope. but I want the whole thing. But my most memorable experience, I don't know if Jacob was there for this one. This 13-year-old girl came by with her mother, and she was like, I love the art. This is exactly what I've been looking for. As far as, she didn't say it, but she was like, women heroes in some sort of a comic. She didn't use the word representation, but she was like, oh my God, I've been looking for something like this. And the mom was like, all right, do you want to take a chance with this one? And she's like, yeah, I really do. Okay, so what's the concept? And I was like, well, so it's Clerks meets, like Scooby-Doo a little bit, and maybe Buffy the Vampire Slayer. And I just got a blank face from this 13-year-old girl who had never heard of any of the IPs I had just mentioned.
No.
And the mom was like, I know what you're talking about, by the way. That does sound interesting. And despite the fact she'd never heard of any of those things, she was like, I still would like to try your comic, please. And I was like, well, just a heads up, there's cursing in it. It's called Curses. I would say it's PG-13, and she was like, well, I'm 14, so that should be perfectly fine. And I was like, whoa, okay, you know what, you probably got me there.
Yeah.
And then but it was just fun to see the reaction on people's faces and stuff, and talk back and forth with them and have actual interaction with essentially our work. It was kind of neat.
Yeah, that was really neat.
Anybody cosplayers? Anybody from Curses or?
No Curses cosplay. We did see a lot of wild cosplays. There was a Space Marine who was like almost 10 feet tall. He was clearly walking.
No, it was a Transformer.
That's right.
Yeah, he was dressed as Starscream. It was amazing.
And he was like 13 feet tall or 12 feet
yeah,
tall.
It was
yeah,
massive. He was on stilts or something. It was huge.
Wow.
Yeah, absolute bananas. There was a little kid dressed as a Jawa who would run around like inspecting all of the things and making the noises, and the parents were following her along, like fixing her hood every time it would fall down and stuff like that. It was very adorable. But no Curses, not yet.
No Curses. Oh,
No.
Too bad.
Yeah, that'll be the next con probably for sure.
Yeah. And of course you signed with Spielberg, right? Like
Yes, of course.
He's doing the movie adaptation.
And you said, quote, I won't accept this unless Mark Hamill plays the mummy. He has to be the mummy.
I was like, come back when you have a real offer, and I slid it back to him. Yeah, I was like, no thanks. No, last day of the con, like closing hours, like the half hour before everything closed, a guy came by who was like, hey, your art caught my eye. Could I take one of these books? Please email me. We're a distributor, probably the 7th largest in the country. And I was like, oh, cool, sure. And gave me his card and everything. And that was a fun contact. I emailed him. I got to follow up with him at some point to figure out what's going on. Not it's been 2 months. It's probably been a while, but
I wonder if that guy's like the most clever like con artist in the world. He's like, I'm a distributor. Let me get one of your comics. Just does it every
He
time.
bought it. He still bought it though. Yeah,
He still bought it. Okay.
Yeah. We did do some trades. That was also fun. I didn't know that was a thing. Other people were like, hey, I've got my own comic down here. Your comic looks really cool. If you're interested, we can do a swap or whatever. I didn't realize there was a barter system at comic conventions.
That's
Yeah,
cool.
so I picked up a couple super exciting comics. Especially there was one that was like just starting. It was their very first comic, but I really liked the concept. Yeah.
Yeah, that one was really cool.
How does that work if you don't want to trade? You're like, yeah, but then you get it and it's like 4 pages.
That'd be awesome. You look at the
Yeah.
comic, and you're like, oh no.
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're like, well, ours is the thing is ours is nicer than yours. And, yeah.
Definitely Jacob's art is better than this thing. Like,
Hey, Jacob's got some free time now. Do you want some art lessons? He's
Yeah.
here.
I had that conversation with Jacob. I was reading one of these guys' comment. I love the concept. This could use an editor.
Mhm.
Yeah, I was like,
Did Paul perk up at that point? He's like,
I should have.
don't need it.
Yeah. From the other side of the state, he was like, "There's a call on the wind."
Yeah. Fall signal.
Yeah, it's good times.
yeah, it sounds fun. Are you gonna do more?
I'd like to. Yeah, there's a WonderCon is coming back in April, but I think Jacob has a schedule conflict.
Yeah, I've got one, a con in Kansas City that I'm doing.
Okay.
And then I'm going back to the Northwest Arkansas Comic Convention, and I don't even know the date for that one yet. So,
Mhm.
so I've got 2 that I'm already booked for, and then.
And I'm right at around the same time. And then I guess this summer is going to be the first San Diego Comic Con again, but
Mhm.
I don't know if we can get into that one because it's going to be mobbed.
I
So maybe
wouldn't even try.
we try again for LA Comic Con. It's going to be December. Apparently, it's going to be December every year. So maybe that's just our thing.
Yeah, that one was fine. We know the ropes now, so we can.
Yeah.
Do you want to go for small comic conventions more small ones, or keep on trying to just get like several big ones?
I like the small ones. I went to one which was like technically just a book con, and it was up just like an hour drive from here. And yeah, I made almost equivalent money as I did in the 3 days at LA, because there's a lot of people that are just looking for independent art stuff.
Yeah.
And all of the people that were tabling near me, are like-minded, and everyone's got different taste and different,
And they
forms
know
of art,
they're supporting local probably too.
Exactly. So they were all eager to be like, I really want to have part of this. And definitely a lot of the trading happened there too
Oh, cool.
with the neighbors. So that was cool. I definitely want to go back to that one. That one was it was called I have they have like a newsletter, Death Ray Con. Yeah,
Death Ray Con? Okay.
yeah, they put out this like anthology of comics, and they didn't do it this year, but usually all the participants will do like a single page spread in their newspaper based on a theme, but since COVID they haven't really done that yet, so maybe this year.
I'm realizing, by the way, I confused Lizards and Labyrinth was not the Pyramid Scheme one. There was the people that came to our booth. Do you remember? And they like feigned interest in our comic for a good 5-6 minutes.
I don't remember who they were affiliated with.
I know. But here's what they were selling. So they were selling Creative Space specifically. They're like, okay, well, listen, we do voice acting and we have creative spaces with microphones and recording equipment. If you're ever interested in either collaborating for the next comic or just working out of our studio. And I was like, sure, great, thanks. And yeah, just to, get them out of there. And I was like, they know we don't have a cartoon, right? It's a printed comic. And they were pushing voice acting or renting their studio with microphones to work on our next issue of our paper comic.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah,
Is that not a
was
thing where you are?
confusing.
Makerspaces?
That's how underground our comic is. It's no longer on paper. It's only verbal.
Wait, you've heard of this, Paul? It's called Makerspaces?
Well, as a generic term, certainly it's huge in the Bay Area here. Just lots of-
Briefly, is it just a creative like space to rent out and like work out of? Is that all it is?
Yes, the one nearest me, I think, is called the Crucible. You can do everything from blacksmithing to like making robots to tool crafting.
That's crazy. That's awesome.
Or writing. But it's really cool. Yeah, you get a lot of interesting cross-pollination.
That's interesting.
Cross-pollination that happens.
That's awesome. I don't think that's what this guy was selling. He just had a recording studio, basically. Again, yeah, paper comic. I was like, maybe if we make a cartoon? Yeah, I don't know.
What was the coveted item?
First, see if he's okay with that.
Yeah.
We'll go from there.
What do you mean coveted item?
Among the trades and stuff, was it just books for books, or were there like cool pins and posters and stuff that were getting like 3 to 1?
We only just did. That's a great question. I think we just did books for books. We didn't have a lot of merchandise. Now here's the thing. Jacob had a lot of great art, like what do you call those?
Just prints.
Prints, yeah. So there were a lot of people who were really interested in the art prints. There, right across from us, was a husband and wife selling the wife's art, and it was mostly like animals and nature, but a little slightly more realistic, maybe even a little Japanese influence. And she decided to make. She just had like a swallow and a rabbit and this and that. And then she made two that I stared at all day. It was a samurai rabbit and a samurai badger, but in like, like with the loose, puffy kind of like clothing and stuff like that, and just very stoic looking. And I was like, that is so cool. And by the end, so I was like, we got to figure out a way to trade for some of that. So by the end of the con, I was like, I got to tell you, I love your art. Are you guys familiar with Yoshio Jimbo, the rabbit samurai? I mean, like, I'm just looking at this whole time, and she's like, no. But one other man came and said the same thing, and I wrote it down. But no, I've never heard of that before. I'm like, how do you make a rabbit samurai? And don't even like accidentally come across Yoshio Jimbo when Googling rabbit samurai.
She doesn't use reference. She's just like right off the dome.
Yeah. That was probably the most coveted item I wanted the entire con. That was.
Yeah, their table was pretty unique. They were doing like pen and ink art with watercolor, and everything else was like chibi pins. And
was she drawing there? Was she drawing?
She was.
Oh, okay.
Sometimes, and I didn't even get to go over there and look at what they were doing.
Oh no, Jacob, hold on a second. Can I tell you what? Maybe the booth that had one of the most attentions over it was 2 Over, and I'm blanking on the name of the comic.
Are you talking about the one where the woman was drawing and it was just a bunch of titties and ass?
Yeah. God, what was it called? I'm so frustrated that I can't remember it. It was called something like something where they would spell names with a Z, like dumb beaches or something like that, but with Z's. And it was just it was a comic about strippers and stripping with stripper comics. And she would have like people stopping, they wanted to take pictures of her, like get in front of the booth and take pictures. She was like signing, well, could you please sign your name to this thing? And it was like I was like, I don't even know that there's content to this comic. It was just I'm so frustrated that I can't think of this name. But essentially, the more egregious it was, the longer the line was, which is really disheartening, right? Like there's a guy who he did nothing but artwork, but it was just outrageously pin-up positions,
like of mature rating.
Yes, where they would like quadruple the size of their proportions. Of otherwise famous characters that don't look that way. Right. Again, just lying around the corner.
You see that on Kickstarter too, right? Like, have you seen those campaigns for like
definitely
really stupid, really, really bad comics?
They fund so high too.
Yeah. Why? Who's buying that stuff?
I don't know.
The same people that buy pornography are the same people that are buying that. Like, I mean, I hate to say this. Who buys porn nowadays?
Yeah. That's a fair point. That's a fair point. Yeah.
I have thought about this in general. Like, isn't there enough available that it's not?
We've made enough, everyone. We have made enough.
I don't think it's physically possible for like a single human being to consume all the porn in the world there is right now. Like,
start now, make it your job, and there's not enough time in a human life to consume it all. No, it's not possible. So that I never understood that. But
doing a buffet of ice cream. At some point, it's just too much. You're like, no, I'm very thankful for this nice sample, but I'm done. I am getting the diabetes. I am dead. I can't do anymore.
Speaking of food and the con, man, that's how they were making their money back at the convention, was the food trucks out there. I made the mistake of buying lunch, and I was like, you know what? I'm going to go treat myself. I'm going to go to the line that was the shortest, which was the barbecue truck. And I spent $35 on a container of mac and cheese and a soda, and that was I was like,
That
how
was your
the hell did
entire
I do-
profits for the con, right? Like,
Yeah, exactly. That's why nobody
Guys.
was buying. That was my theory, is they were spending money on food. And man, those lines were huge. People were happy to spend that much money. So
Just empty their pockets. That there's a Mr. Burns quote from The Simpsons where he opens a casino and he's like, I found the perfect business. People walk in, empty their pockets, and just leave. And it felt like the food at the convention was that way. This was kind of a tough con in that sense because no free parking for conventionees. So you're right off the bat, you're like, great, $30 a day parking, okay. Then the table itself cost, I don't remember, Jacob, 300,
300,
something like that. Yeah,
somewhere in
350
there.
already. And let's say we just starved the whole time. Already that means we're in the whole like 450, 500 before we even break even selling stuff. So that was a tough setback. We got to find a more efficient way to sort of do something like that. But thankfully we did at least make, turn at least some profit.
Yeah, and it was still really fun, and still the experience was really valuable.
Yeah,
we learned a lot. And I think that was the largest convention that you'd been to with me. So
absolutely, yeah, without question.
did you drive, Jacob, or did you fly in?
I flew out. So what I had to do is make sure I had a checked bag that would be able to fit all of our inventory, at least most of it. Joe had a bunch that I had mailed to him before, so he had a bunch of comics waiting, and we ordered one of the signs to be shipped to his house. So he has a convention sign whenever we need it.
Oh, good.
Everything else was going to be checked luggage, and that it worked out fine. The bag was a little bit heavy. When I was going there, I think I was just 1 pound over, so I was able to put the excess in my carry-on. So it all worked out.
We have a guest that was on a couple of weeks ago, who's been sitting in at comic book shops and doing signings all the time. Have you guys
Really?
done any of that?
I haven't even considered it, but
Okay.
that would be.
I was just wondering because he posts literally every week, he's sitting at least 1 or 2 shops in LA, signing comic books, and he's
the amazing
writer. And yeah, I just thought it was really cool because he only has 1 book made,
Well, shit.
And he's
so you
just
don't even need to be a big draw. It's just an extra thing to bring people into a comic.
Yeah,
store, I suppose?
I guess. No, it's really interesting watching him on. I should just say his name. It's the R. Loxley creator, Tim Guest, I guess.
Okay.
If anyone wants to listen to his episode, but or find him on. I'll pull up his Instagram and let you know. But yeah, I was just wondering if you'd ever done any of that because that seemed like a cool strategy that I hadn't seen before.
That's something I'm gonna have to look into. That sounds awesome. I mean,
especially for local comics, they could broadcast, hey, local creator, Jacob Fleming, here, signing his books.
Well, you know what? I take it back. I did do that once, but it wasn't a comic book shop because we only have a very small comic book shop. It was a bookstore. So when I had the first issue out, I went there for a few hours, and it was fine. But I live in a very small town, so
Oh, okay.
I think in LA it would be a lot better.
Yeah, it's Salterra Comics.
Okay.
Salterra Comics. And
awesome.
I just thought that was pretty neat. Something I hadn't considered. Yeah, because you hear about cons a lot too.
You said he was just the writer?
Yeah, he's the writer. He worked with this artist in Greece.
Okay.
Who did?
That's awesome.
Yeah. And he's it's really great art, so
I'm sure.
It does draw your eye in, like your work, Jacob, too. It just draws you in. So, and it's yellow, which is, as Paul might say, is very marketable color. So that grabs your attention.
Is that a thing? Is that one of the marketable colors?
Mm-hmm.
I think so.
Yeah.
For no reason other than that it was said once.
I mean, there's always something to be said about pretty colors. I mean, that just kind of if I could put in a hotel bedroom or a doctor's office, you go with the pretty colors. You don't go with the colors that are well, I'm gonna die. Or
yeah. No, that's they have that in Ocean's 11 where they say taupe is a very soothing color, and they just paint all the hallways that color. I always found that super interesting. The idea of like, what contrasts and what catches people's eye and stuff. I have no knowledge of it other than I regularly say, I don't know what the technical term is, but they did something right with this one. Something came together correctly. Yeah, good times.
Yeah, for sure. So you guys have a new comic coming out. Yeah.
Yep. We're on issue 4. In fact, I just submitted the next draft to Paul and Jacob.
The script.
We are of the script. Yeah, we're chipping away at it.
Cool.
And again, lucky to have Paul to give us some interesting perspective on things. It's been really great, actually.
Hey, Paul, I have a question. As an editor, has there ever been one where you looked at it like, I can't look at this anymore? It's so bad. Come back to me when you're serious.
Not that it's ever so bad, but that I've read it like 40 times and Joe's bringing it back with like one minor edit in it. And I'm like, what line was changed? What am I reading this for?
Yeah. It'll be like, yeah.
Or it'll be like a couple weeks apart. And I think you've only done this once, I think, where you sent me something and then I did some work on it and then you sent me it again. And I was like, wait, this is the same thing. I think you just forgot that he already sent me this to work on this. And like, I've already done the work. But right now, I need to air some dirty laundry. We need to work on our version control for this latest edition, because I think I've got 4 different Google Docs are all the like variations of this script, because it's split up funny. But
I'm gonna clean that up.
We'll figure that out.
Get that cleaned up and.
Now, do you guys do letters, or do you just go new one?
So the first send is Jacob does a little bit of my processing. I send it all to Jacob, and he puts it on one solid Google Doc, and we can add notes to that. But me being a ding dong, I forgot that we did that, and I just edited my original Word documents and resent the Word documents again that are not the cohesive Google Doc. But I can say real quick. So for example, issue 2, I think I wrote a scene where Paul said, "What are you trying to do with this scene?" And I was like, "Well, I'm trying to show that Rose's life is boring." And he's like, "Well, you've succeeded in making a very boring scene." And he was essentially teaching me, is like, there's a trick to this. You somehow have to come up with an interesting way to show us that she's boring while not boring the reader at the same time. And that ended up being the scene in issue 2 where she works at a convenience store and gets a bunch of ridiculous clients or customers coming in. And in a sense had some humor to it while also showing how miserable she was, instead of just being miserable while also showing how miserable she was.
The pace
it's only miserable for the character, not miserable for the audience.
Right. That was a huge help. But you were asking about a time where I sent something and Paul was like, "I don't know what to do with this." It literally was like, "You got to start over, man. This is a very boring scene." So there's been stuff like that. With the current issue, and we can go into it, I'm sure, a little bit without talking about the specific plot points. But Paul would say, "Hey,
I'm sorry, are you hungry, Joe?"
It's my dog.
Oh.
But I call it stomach as well.
Is very anxious.
Do you need to get a cracker or something?
Okay, all right, give me a second. I'll be right back.
It sounds his stomach's going.
That's Steve the dog. Has Steve the dog made an appearance on the podcast yet?
No, not before.
No,
Yeah.
not yet.
As opposed to Steve the human, or one of his many friends named Steve.
Yeah.
The most 4-legged person that's made an appearance is Keegan. Has 2 cats,
Mhm.
and they have made numerous appearances. So
Yeah, we haven't had a guest with cats yet, have we, Eric? Not
I
really.
think we've had, but like nothing that's like literally like
Not that
like,
have
all right,
jumped in. Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you guys deal with Steve the dog all the time? Is this a problem for you?
It's never a problem. Steve has only ever snapped at my face one time.
Okay.
That was because he was just new to the house and I was the new guest in the house.
Oh, okay.
That's about it. But otherwise, he's a
Thankfully,
great
he
dog.
remembers me.
We're talking about my dog, I assume.
We were talking about how bad your dog is. Yeah.
When Jacob came to go visit, I was at work and I was like, "Listen, I'll leave a key for you, under the rug or whatever." And I was like, the dog gets kind of, defensive of the house. If there's any issues, just put him in my room, and he sends me a picture of the dog just laying on top of him, and he's like, "Yeah, we're good." I was like, "That's my guard dog right there." No, sorry. So the current issue, the editing challenges were, it's great to have, write ideas, funny stories, and characters, and them doing things that we all love and enjoy, and running jokes and debating back and forth nerdy topics and stuff. And we get someone like Paul to say, what is the goal of this issue, or where, if you've got an arc of where we're going, what were the missions that were supposed to be accomplished that of the story that we had to hit here, right? And I'll say like, well, there has to be, the team is going to struggle to work with each other. And then in the next issue, they will learn to work cohesively as a team, sort of thing. It's like, well, if that's what you're working for, maybe the bottom there, the failure is not low enough of a failure. We have to retool the concept to say, hey, they fail, but there needs to be consequences to how they fail to make it a little more dramatic. Paul, I'm sure you could explain it better, but
no, that was pretty accurate for the most part. Like I said before, I try not to involve myself in the actual creative labor that Joe's doing here, right? Because in the partnership between an artist and a writer, the writer is offering the writing, and if you suddenly add another writer, I'm just encroaching on Joe's domain. And so I relieve that for myself by sticking to like structural things, just asking big picture questions. Hey, we're coming up on the end of issue 3. Where are we headed in issue 4 or 5? I have no idea how we're going to make this low point lower, this high point higher. And usually it's just a lot of like prompting to Joe, and then Joe's brain starts spooling off ideas and we keep going.
Yeah, and it's been great to have Paul say something like, this character needs more motivation. I'm like, oh, like this? And he's like, that's an example of them. There are others as well. Yeah. So that's how that works. And I don't, obviously, I'm a big fan of someone saying, hey, this one didn't land, or this one isn't interesting enough, and that's how it ends up being more cohesive at the end.
Paul, were you trained to do this in any shape?
Yes, I went to school for creative writing. I was an English creative writing major at UC Davis, and believe it or not, that skill, all the skills learned there, translated directly into working in the video games industry in the marketing departments, because all those classes teach you to do is get shot down over and over and over again, and just beat up. You sit in the hot seat all day, getting blasted by your fellow students and instructors, and that really prepares you for real life, where you got to go up and make a presentation and receive nothing but blank stares and pummeling questions over and over and over again until you don't want to do your idea anymore. But so I try and bring some of that knowledge back to Joe's and Jacob's campaign here, and try and ask the questions that aren't going to like knock the wind out of their sails, but keep them pointed in the right direction.
Did you want to be a writer when you were?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, that's still the dream for I think everybody, right? Is anybody who sits down to do a comic or write a story or anything still has that dream of getting that call from Spielberg. They want to buy your rights and make that movie of everything that you've poured your heart and soul into. And instead, I sold my soul to Google, and now I do marketing for major tech corporations in the gaming sphere.
Ah, I see. Do you write anymore? Or no?
I do. Yeah. Mostly among my groups of friends, and like I do a workshop or two a year where I contact old instructors and see if they've got a writing session going on. I'll join.
Cool. Oh, cool.
Nice.
The process Paul just described, I don't know if you guys have seen Tick, Tick, Boom on Netflix yet. The musical about the guy who ended up writing Rent, I think. But it's an interesting inception. So he wrote the very first musical he ever wrote. He poured his heart and soul into it for like 8-9 years. Pitches it, workshops it, and everyone's like, borrows every money, loses relationships over it, gets it done, presents it, and they were like, hey, that's great. Let us know when you make another one. We're not interested in this idea, but you're clearly talented. So his next musical was Tick, Tick, Boom, which was an autobiography of the process of making the first musical. And then afterwards he made Rent, which was a huge success, and he passed away. And so interesting enough, the movie Tick, Tick, Boom, I don't mean to sell this. Long story short, the movie on Netflix is both a musical and it's a biography about his life. But what Paul described, the reason I thought of it is the idea of literally doing nothing but working on your big passion project for such a long time and presenting it, and the result was like, oh, you're very talented, let us know the next time you make something. It's just kind of a tough thing to deal with. But yeah, good times. Fun tangents.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, rejection's a real thing, for sure. Do you guys feel that when you're at the con ever? Like somebody looks at it and is like, okay, maybe not for me.
Sometimes, but I think I just go into it that, obviously not everybody's going to love the comic.
Okay.
But yeah. I think what's, and that means, like Joe was saying, like you work on something for so long and then you're just building yourself to be rejected on this one thing. It's nice to be able to like finish multiple things and get a lot of practice in finishing things and a lot of practice in rejection, because then you can learn more. Yeah. I've seen a lot of stories of people like, I worked 10 years on this one comic or this graphic novel, and it was my dream project. And like, I never even heard of that thing, so I have no idea.
Yeah, we and that was the lesson I learned. That I think we talked about it before. That the best way to get better is just to do it. Instead of spending too much time in the conceptualizing state. Is this good enough? Like is this funny enough? Is this interesting? You just get it done and you get feedback and keep going. That sort of thing.
Yeah, fail as fast as possible, as often as possible.
That's a great line. I never heard of that before. Yeah, it's been good, interesting stuff. We have had some people come to our booth that said, tell us the pitch us the subject, or I mean, from my perspective, oh my God, the art was incredible. What's the comic about? Well, let me tell you what it's about. They're like, no thanks. Yeah. I was like, all right, well, I'm clearly the sucker in this one here.
I thought you were about to do like the sell me this pen like thing from Wolf of Wall Street.
Wolf of Wall Street, right.
Sell me this pen.
Sell me this pen. No, not quite. I also, that's another skill to learn at comic conventions that me and Jacob picked up our first one, is to not try to engage every person who slows down to look at our artwork. Because a lot of people are just processing and moving, and it's very sort of intimidating to be like, hey, want to hear about a comic? Like, whoa, sorry, to kind of keep, no, just looking, sorry, just. So you kind of have to like let them approach and engage you instead of sort of like, what's that phrase? Like carnival barkering, like when you're just like, come on, step right up, right in, you there in the British shoes, come on down. Would you interested in the comic? Why not? Something wrong with you? All right, see you later. Next person, that sort of thing.
Hawking.
Yeah.
I used to hawk programs outside of Fenway. Yeah.
Oh, geez.
Yeah. So I get it. I know what that's like. But you do get people in because they'll hear you if you're shouting.
I feel like there's a real arms race that goes on between hawkers or barkers and like the average person walking down the street. Living in the Bay Area, there's constantly people wanting you to sign their various petitions or give you a flyer or whatever. And I've perfected the art of like the don't fucking flyer me face. Like I'm gonna walk right by you. I'm not gonna make eye contact. I'm not hurting your cause, but I'm not going to participate in your cause.
In your head, it's this big deal between you and this person who is causing you problems. But to them, you are literally like the ocean flowing past them. Like there is no individual there. There's just a sea of people going back and forth, and sometimes they take the flyer, And so like when you walk by these people, it's not a big deal to them that you just walk by. Which I only learned by doing the other side of it, where you're like trying to get people to buy, but you end up like people will stop, I guess. I'll just keep talking about it and people will stop at some point.
What was your most effective like pitch to get somebody to grab whatever it is you were handing off to them? One that you just went back to again and again, that well never ran dry.
Just repetition. Really, honestly, it was like the simplest form of like programs, $2, programs, get your program here, just over and over.
You had to do like the old timey voice, like
I was gonna say the same thing. Yeah,
that's so cool.
Yeah, I did the old timey voice because I wasn't from Boston, right? So like when I first started, I actually tried to do the Boston accent, but I found that it was better if I didn't do it, and just did the old timey voice and held it up really high so that people could see what I was talking about.
There you go.
Yeah.
I love the old Mitch Hedberg joke of every time somebody hands me a flyer, I feel like what they're saying is, here, you throw this away.
Well, yeah, the owner of that, I don't know. Have you guys been to Fenway? A little
I have not.
history lesson. The owner of the program hated the program that they were selling inside the park, and it was like this was back in the 90s, I think. And so he made his own and started selling it outside of the park of Fenway, and he got sued and everything. But Boston has like a freedom of speech and freedom to print that dates back to like the Revolutionary War. And so he's allowed to sell programs for the game outside of the park.
Wow.
So it's like it's kind of a unique thing to Fenway if you ever get out there. But then there were like one of his guys broke away and became like the evil program guy. And there's like this whole battle that goes on.
Wow.
And sometimes they fight.
Amazing.
And oh man, it was great.
I wonder if they'll do like a ESPN 30 for 30 on those guys, the program wars.
They might have already. There's definitely a documentary that the evil guy made. The evil guy
He
was.
sounds like he won.
They were in green. The better ones were in red. Yeah.
To kind of
so-
like spy versus spy.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was like a whole subculture. It was really fun. It was
That's
like
wild.
a really fun job. Anyway,
Fantastic.
you guys have been great guests yet again.
Thank you
for
so
coming
much.
on. When are we looking at issue 4?
If we can finish wrapping up the story sometime soon, Jacob, what's your timeline usually for like the first layer of blocking it out and stuff?
Oh, that doesn't take me much more than a week usually, but it'd be great to get the whole thing printed and out and released, before summer. That'd be awesome, but probably summer.
Oh, cool. Okay. Well, let us know. We'll plug it on our Instagram and let everyone know.
Absolutely.
We'd love to do a review of it when it comes out, just because.
Yeah, absolutely.
And where can people find Curse's comic?
Well, you can purchase it at our working storefront, which is gelatinouscubism.com, and which you can find our links on our Instagram, Jacob Fleming Art and Curse's Comics.
So gelatinouscubism.com, is that your website?
Yeah, that's our website and our
Okay.
publishing company.
Oh, okay. So you have your own publishing company?
Yeah, since I
cool.
make a lot of other self-published works, I just put it all underneath that name.
Oh, perfect. Okay, that makes sense. Cool. So gelatinous cube. Next
Yeah,
time you're on, we'll talk about that title.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
All right, cool.
We'll ignore Joe and Paul and just talk about your stuff. Like, sorry, Joe. Sorry, Paul. This is Jacob's time.
Well, Paul might be camping, right? Right, Paul?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. You're going to be camping that day?
I was
Absolutely, yeah.
I was waiting for Paul to do the interview on the phone and just have bears behind him the entire time.
We talked about it seriously
You
for
did?
this last trip. Yeah.
It was honestly talked about, Eric.
It was on the table whether he could get reception or so from the campsite, and
It would have
and
been condors, not bears, at
Okay.
this location. Yeah, California condors. Bears of the sky, really.
Yeah.
Yeah, good times. Well, that you got to work on getting that one of those like Zoom filter backgrounds where it looks like you're camping. That'd be great.
Yeah.
Next time.
Yeah.
You work on your carnival parking, Joe. I need an outfit so you
Yeah.
can hand comics off. I'll get the background going.
That's right, yeah.
Yeah, you go around Yosemite with comics to different campsites and hey, guys, want to buy something to read out here?
Wow, talk about a captive audience.
Yeah, right.
Hundreds of dollars. They're there with their whole family.
They have to listen to your sales pitch.
You have just found a new market.
Yeah.
I'm willing to be the front man
Yeah.
on that.
Comes with a free map. Cool. You guys have a good night. Thank you.
Awesome.
Thanks for having us.
Bye.